Hello and welcome everybody to Week 7 of the Vintage Super League. I am here with the current North American champion, Brian Caval. Hi,
and
Brian.
I'm here with the former world vintage champion, Brian Kelly.
Nice to see you this fine, enchanted evening.
Yeah, lovely. That match was something. Like that Sylvan Library did you well right there. You went
love
from
that
zero
card.
to hero.
I went from 0 to hero. That's why I played it. The dig through time was not that great. I was thinking, come on, like give me a Mox and a Stony Silence or something. And
here in the booth, Rachel and I were speculating before it popped onto camera. We're like, he's going to take any blue card, any counterspell, like blue card straight into the hand. Then there was just 0 blue cards.
Zero.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I thought there was a reasonable probability I might survive one turn, because even though I knew he was going to get the Academy, I thought like if it's a Belcher, there's a good chance he doesn't have enough to, acquire the Academy with the Mana Vault that has to be used and play a Belcher and activate it. So I took the Sylvan because I was like, I think there's a good chance that I have another turn. Like I could have played an Aegis of the Gods, and that would have bought me another turn as well as drawn another card, because if he played a Belcher, he would have to kill the Aegis of the Gods before he killed me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about your match against Rachel? That was really complex. That Thorn of Amethyst did so much work.
Yeah, not having an exploration. Rachel and I talked about this leading into the last round, but not having an exploration effect in that game too was just lights out. And I found one just too late. Like the fast bond, if I had found it a turn earlier with the chasm still in play,
absolutely, that would have been beautiful. And game one, it was so it was heartbreaking because you made that really great power play, got the Tabernacle, wiped the board, and then there was that judgment call. Do I Ancient Grudge the Ballista like as a healing salve for 5? Well, I guess healing self is always 3. I don't know. Stream of Life for 5.
Well, yeah, the problem was I had fast one in play like that, and I wanted to continue playing lands. And like I figured, I'll draw Loam before she draws the 7/7.
That's what was so frustrating, because not that I would ever root against a workshop deck. And to be clear, I like the workshop deck. I don't hate the workshop deck. Dredge is another story, but workshop it's a cool part of the format. I like workshop. But like just watching your draws, because you had so many top decks that could have really done a lot of work. You could have drawn Caracas, and Caracas the Traxos. You could have drawn a Loam,
Chasm.
So many
cards, and instead I drew 2 more explorations and the Mana Bond.
I noticed.
Yep, all dressed up with nowhere to go.
All right, our players are ready. We have Bob Maher on Blue Belcher versus Rachel Agnes on Constructive Criticism, a variation of Shops with Metallic Mimic, which we'll name Construct most of the time. All right, so Rachel has a no-lander.
So does Bob.
Kind of. I mean, he has the Sapphire. Yeah, he doesn't have Lotus and Academy like he did against me. I was like, come on, really? Both of those?
I got you for a second there. There's one land in Bob's deck. That's the joke, chat. If you're just tuning in. Yeah, but he doesn't have a map. Lion's Eye Diamond is pretty bad as far as artifact mana goes in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, his line, that's a tricky hand because it does have the force. I don't know who won the die roll. Do we know who won the die roll yet?
I don't. The Mox is the Sapphire, though, so he could keep this preordain. His deck is full of mana, so all right, he mulliganed. Figured he'd do better on 6 than 7 with a preordain, and he is on the play.
So he gets to scry and see if there's a Mox. If there's some kind of Mox, he'll probe into it.
Is that lethal? mana crypt. He can probe. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
I feel like it's
7.
one shy, but maybe I'm wrong.
So
Because he has to pay
the,
2 for
right, the crypt casts the monolith, which is 3, then 4, 5. So he
and
can
then
deploy. Yeah, he can play the Belcher now and then
the
belch next turn.
and it will lose to the Revoker.
Right, but he'll know about it because of the probe. So
maybe he can set up a diminishing returns if he draws
yeah,
another blue card to put on the Chrome Mox.
right. Yeah, he's currently a blue source short of doing that. But
And Rachel's hand doesn't do anything but revoke something. Aside from that, it has a clock, but Belcher is not concerned with anyone else's clock.
right. But revoking Belcher is not the worst place to be.
No, that's fine for her. I, as a Belcher pilot, I would rather have Belcher revoked than have a Sphere and a Thorn in play.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, Rachel's hand can revoke Belcher and then put 5 more power onto the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then just hope it's good enough.
I like Rachel's position, but
Yeah, Bob is not main decking a Hercules recall.
Ooh.
I'm scrolling through his list now just to make super sure.
So I wonder what you can do to try to tease out the Revoker. You know, like maybe play Grim Monolith and hope that gets revoked. Because I think if I were Bob, I might keep the Belcher in my hand.
Unless your plan to bait the Revoker is to hang out the Belcher, like get Revoker on Belcher, so it's not messing with Tezzeret, which is now your win condition.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in the blind, Rachel just jams Revoker on Belcher. Oh wow. I'm sure Richard Shea is having an aneurysm right now. He thinks Revoker should be restricted.
He's right.
Card. Yes,
He's right.
I agree with him, but he is the most vocal proponent of that plan that I've heard.
It takes a lot of insight to understand why that is the card that should be restricted, and I credit Rich for having that insight.
Yes, he's generally pretty smart about stuff.
Highly intelligent, absolute genius. We're lucky because in Magic there seems to be a high quantity of people that are highly intelligent. I mean, you really meet a lot of amazing people. I know from Vintage, it might not be that way in other formats, but I don't see why it wouldn't be. A lot of really smart people. Okay, so diminishing returns. I'm guessing the Revoker is naming Belcher.
Yep, there's no way I can see anything that small, but it would have to, or else she was dead. So I give her credit of avoiding onboard lethal.
That's like clapping for someone who puts a forest into play.
Right. Oh, look at this juicy hand of blue cards and no way to cast them. The probe can go one deeper, but Bob is desperate for an academy here. The academy.
Fortunately for him, though, Rachel's hand only has one other piece of disruption, and it's a sphere, and I think Bob can handle a sphere.
Yeah, at this point, he's above a sphere.
Ooh, another Belcher.
Yeah, every Belcher he draws is like not drawing a card at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Wasteland, if he ever passes with his academy in play, is going to be a hammer.
Horrible. Although I would think that wouldn't happen without something really explosive happening beforehand.
Right. Can Rachel play all of the cards in her hand? Yes.
Inspector.
All of the non-land cards are about to come into play.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I guess that's lethal next turn, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Because Revoker attacks for 3, and then there will be 3, 3, 2. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is lethal. So Tezzeret won't.
It's one short, right?
Well, there's a Mishra's factory there.
All right, the factory will make it lethal. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Bob needs to. I don't think he has a line to victory. I mean,
I don't think
Ancestral's in his
so
hand,
either.
so if a line exists, Ancestral can get it.
Can help it.
Yeah, he has to draw the Academy or a map right now.
Mm-hmm. I guess if he drew Academy,
this sphere is going to ruin all his plans, though. Like, his lines to victory are dubious without the sphere.
yeah, they're not likely. He still has them though, because I think if he plays Ancestral and he draws Voltaic, Tolarian Academy, Time Vault, or Tinker, that would do it. But it has to be a good Ancestral, and if he Ancestrals into Time Walk, that could open more paths to him. He does have that Spirit Guide there too.
Yeah. So he does have 2 blue sources now that he's untapped. So he's going to get to Ancestral.
Ooh, a misstep. He's only on 2 of them, and he drew them both.
Yeah, along with the revoked Belcher. So his hand has 3 fewer cards in it than it appears.
So there's Time Vault. There's a Ponder in there?
Yeah, but it costs 2. Yeah, I guess if it finds Academy, we're still.
If it finds Academy, then he has
then he loses.
Nothing. Yeah.
No, he has Mox, Ruby, and Simeon Spirit Guide. So if he finds Academy, he could block.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's not where you want to be, but you're right.
Right.
That's a great great call.
Got to find these lines. So
no, the Mana Crypt hit him. So he's at 7.
Okay. All right, blocking the monkey is not going to help.
Poor Bob.
Oh no, Ponder.
And even if he finds the Academy, there's nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he's out of juice here. So while we're watching Bob die, I can tell a funny Brian Kelly Shops story. I played Shops in one tournament ever in my life, and in like the 3-3 bracket in the last round, I got paired against Brian Kelly, and he knows I like blue. He knows I like playing fun spells, and he kept this like 1-lander with 2 missteps, and he probed me, and I just showed him a 7-card workshop hand, and he said, "Oh no, Brian, no, I don't like this." And then he promptly died.
Did I win the match or lose?
I believe I conceded to you because you could still make prizes and I could. I think I might have been like 3-2-1 and you were 3-3 or the other way around. But
all I remember about that is just the vaguest notion in my head that you were on Shops one time. All of the other data is just, the ravages of time have taken it from me. But I do remember you being on Shops once and me being like, come on, what?
Yeah, you're better than this.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so Bob has a little bit of removal and a Void Snare.
Right. Void Snare is not a whole lot of interaction here. I guess he doesn't need much. He's on the play. And he has his ley line of anticipations for game 3.
Mm-hmm.
If we get to game 3. He has a Chain of Vapor as well as a Void Snare.
The ley line of anticipation for those in the audience is the ley line that gives everything flash. So that means that you can play your Moxen and even your Belcher on your workshop opponent's upkeep before they can like throw a single sphere on the table.
Yep. You can do everything in your deck except play Artillery Academy.
Correct. It's quite a sight to see. And it seems like Magical Christmas Land, but I know people that have played Belcher and they're like, no, it really does what you want it to do.
Yeah, you kind of
More
need
often
it.
than not.
Your deck relies on 0 mana acceleration, and there's a deck in the format that plays as many spheres as it's allowed to.
Yeah.
So you just need this card. I'm surprised he only has 2.
And I think if you compare it and contrast it with Force of Will is a little bit more general, but you know, and it's functional past turn 1, but you'd probably rather just have one card, the ley line, rather than force pitch my preordain, because you have to force the first threat, whether it's a sphere or a chalice or a null rod.
Right. It's very comparable to forcing their first sphere, but it costs 1 card instead of 2.
Yeah. So it even though it looks like it's card disadvantage because you take a card out of your hand, it's actually card advantage if you think of it in terms of using it in lieu of Force of Will plus blue card.
Right.
I don't think Rachel... Sorry.
No, go ahead. Bob's hand does not look good. He has a Force of Will and a shop of his own. So there's some to like about this hand, but a lot not to like too. I don't think it's remotely capable, actually. Especially on the play. You got to go better than that.
I wouldn't keep it, but I've seen worse, especially with Magic Online. You know, I've seen the 7 fetch land hand. And
right.
Rachel can't keep her hand either. Yeah,
she is all dressed up with nowhere to go there. That's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana, 11 mana, and a Lord, metallic.
Yeah. All right, so...
All right, Bob's got the Academy, aligned to the Academy there. He can cast his Ponder, find his Academy. Uh-oh, Chalice of the Void.
Well, on the draw, once the relevant Moxen are in play, I think the Chalice is going to be moot.
Yeah.
If the game goes long, it'll certainly become important.
Right.
But with Bob having...
Bob is holding Hurkyl's Recall.
Exactly.
So, yep.
And he might not even have to use it. Like, he might be able to play Emerald, Map, Opal, and Ponder, and then function off the Moxen that are already in play in the Grim Monolith.
Yep. Yeah, he has the eject button if he even needs it.
Yeah. But he does have to find actual business.
Right.
With Ponder.
I think I saw him thinking about Force of Will on top as his mulligan scry. I don't know what he did with it.
I would put that on the bottom.
Yeah, on the play with Herc's already in your hand. Just fight on that axis. Find some gas. And this game.
Rule of thumb, always put it on the bottom. Card is so bad. I can't tell you.
I'm glad you brought that up, because during your match, I was telling Rachel about your distaste for Force of Will. And in my first month, I had a chat with Stephen Menendian while we were commentating about how bad of a deal Force of Will is. And I think you're the only person who thinks that even harder than I do.
I don't like it. It's like Ancestral Recall in the sense that it will always benefit my opponents more than it benefits me. I will have Force no blue card. They will have Force on my only draw spell. My Ancestrals never resolve. Everyone else's always resolve. And I can play just as much counter magic as everyone else. It's just the luck of the draw. My Ancestrals, they don't resolve unless you're on shops. Yeah. I never even want to put them on the stack. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I wish this cost 2.
Yeah. And if only you could put Thalia in your deck and make it cost 2 and have that work. That's not how that works, chat.
It doesn't change the converted mana cost.
Right.
I have.
There's nothing in Magic that can change a converted mana cost. That is just not a thing that exists in the
Yeah,
rules.
you're right.
Yep. The only fluctuating converted mana costs are X spells, and that's built into the card, but there is no this costs 0 or this costs 1 more that actually changes the printed converted mana cost.
He kept the Force of Will, maybe because he knows that she has null rods in the sideboard.
All right. He has Tezzeret on top of his deck under this Force of Will. So he can force a Revoker or whatever he's scared of here, and then just get Academy, jam Tezzeret, win next turn. Or the turn after this coming turn. And if she doesn't do anything he has to force now, then he can just protect the Tez with the Force and have the deterministic line.
He doesn't have to worry about that Chalice.
Right.
The damage has been done. The opponent has 2 Moxen in play.
Yep.
So he will play.
This is interesting that she has a permanent in play with power and toughness, because Tezzeret can't just get Time Vault and then win now, because it'll just get attacked.
I think Tezzeret usually gets Belcher in the Belcher deck.
Right. It's going to have to here. If she didn't apply pressure, he could have got Time Vault. Now he's going to have to get Belcher. And he has the Force, and he knows it's clear. Her hand would have to be 2 Revokers for this line to not work.
Yeah. I don't think you sacrifice the map quite yet, right?
You can't. So it would make, you'd have 1 floating, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, map does not cast Tezzeret yet.
Yeah, he might have been able to do it by Hurkling himself if it weren't for the Chalice. Is that right?
No, because he has to spend the Hurkle mana to cast the Grim Model if he doesn't have another blue. Yeah, I think he just has to wait a turn.
That's true.
This is just a turn 4 hand, not a turn 3 hand.
So let's see what she draws. Null Rod or Revoker would be...
Right, to force the Force. Alright, she has nothing.
Yeah.
Alright, so Bob knows his top card of his deck from his Ponder, so that should affect whether he maps now or draws that card. He can decide to draw it or not. Alright, he decided he wanted it.
So,
He can Tezzeret and Preordain now and hold up Force. He can't, or he could Preordain first, but all lines start with getting the Academy.
Yeah.
Or that's not even true. He could use the Mox Opal to Preordain, see what happens, then get Academy.
It's probably best to just get the Academy and play Tezzeret and use the Preordain as extra insurance.
Yeah, if you can force pitching Preordain and still have Hurkles in your hand, that sounds pretty deterministic. He's going for the Academy.
Another thing that works against Preordain there is that ordinarily you would want a Mox because you would be able to generate a lot more mana, but the Chalice makes it so that a lot of things you would see as top decks are actually dead.
Right. Your hand already has everything you would be looking for. You have a win condition, a Force of Will, and an extra piece of insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he disagrees.
Oh, Tinker.
All right.
Is that Candelabra?
No, Candelabra is old border in his deck.
Okay, it's hard for me to see.
Yeah, the screen is very small.
Expedition map, maybe?
Oh, it's map. Yeah. Okay. So that's getting out of here. I guess map is like free though. Like it costs one, and then Academy taps for one more.
I wonder if he's thinking there's anything he could do with Tinker.
Yes.
Well, probably.
If he no, can he herc himself up to 6 mana here? Oh no, because of the chalice.
The chalice, yeah.
Never mind. It's coming back again.
Tinker. Whenever I see Tinker in a Sensei top, in situations like this, it's always one of those cards that makes me go so far into the tank. Like, what do I tinker for?
Right. I think he can get back on our line of this is a blue card. Just put it in your hand to feed it to the Force of Will.
Yeah, I like that. Play Tezzeret, get the Belcher.
Yep, get crunched for 8, then win.
Unless she gets wastelanded. Or unless he gets wastelanded.
Right, that would ruin his day.
And he's probably considering that.
Yeah. And she hasn't cast a spell in 2 turns, so he knows her hand is 2 lands within reasonable speculation. And he's just betting on if they're just bricks or if she's slow rolling the wasteland.
Maybe he could untap the Grim Monolith and Opal and Tinker. I wonder if that. No, but. No, there's no reason to do that. It's true.
Yeah, so I think he just has to fade wasteland, right?
He could untap and then Hercules during her attack step, and then fetch and play Tinker next turn. I wonder if that's what he's considering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, attack with all that stuff.
All right. He probably considered it and then decided to just go.
Yeah.
So Rachel has 5 draws to win the game right now. The 4 wastes and the strip. I don't believe she has any additional ghost quarters or anything. Nope, just the wastelands and strip mine.
It has to be that.
Yep. All right, it wasn't that. It looks like Bob's going to get one. And we get to see the ley lines come in now. Man, I hope he has one in. Just keep 7 with a ley line.
That would be great to see. Yeah.
I want it to happen.
I mean, it'd be super nice to see something like ley line, Mox, Opal, Time Twister.
Yeah, just force the opponent to mulligan to 7 before they even get to make a play.
Yeah.
All right, so are any adjustments happening? The ley lines are probably coming.
Mind Break Trap is reasonable too.
Yeah, I do like a Mind Break Trap against shops when I'm on the draw.
Because of the Foundry Inspector, it's actually gotten stronger than it used to be.
Yeah, game 1, Rachel cast her whole hand on turn 2. And she cast the sphere last, because you have to.
Yeah. Otherwise, the sphere would tax the things that you want to play.
Your Foundry Inspector would be demoted to just a Foundry guy.
Yeah.
Foundry individual employee.
I remember someone had several Foundry inspectors in play, and Rich Shea made a joke like, that must be one really clean, well-maintained Foundry. Passes every regulation.
Rich is a man who appreciates cleanliness and regulation.
Mm-hmm. And Foundry inspectors. He's gone to the dark side. He's been playing shops so much.
Yeah. I lied earlier. I said I played shops once in my life in the tournament against you. I actually played it twice, including the champs before this past champs. Rich and I played the same 75, and Rich went undefeated to the finals, and I went 1-3. And so there is some wizardry to playing shops correctly that is lost on me.
Is that when we played in a side event and I opened up Tramoka and it died to a smokestack?
I don't think I had smokestack in my list
Okay.
ever. So I was always, yeah. I've tried chops in the attacking generations. All right, come on, Leyline. Let's do it. Yes, it's there.
He's got the ley line.
And the shop. But he has these naked chrome mox. He has a chrome mox with nothing to imprint. So this ley line is like he doesn't even have a ley line.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Oh boy. And she has wow. So that's really interesting. She has Null Rod, but she can't cast any spells after that if she casts Null Rod.
She can Null Rod herself into no mana and dying 2 mana crypt.
Wow.
This is crazy. Yeah, she's 1 mana short of turn 1 Lodestone. Remember when you could play 4 of those? What a dumb time.
I do remember. I remember that I had a response, and it was Oath of Druids. And that went all the way to number 1, as Mariah Carey would say.
It was a good time to take the oath.
So he has
Force of Wills, Void Snare, a non-blue Mox, and an uncastable Grim Monolith.
I don't like Bob's hand. I think oh man. I was going to say, I think Rachel would just play Mana Crypt Null Rod and still win, because she'll eventually draw an Ancient Tomb or something like that. Although, it's...
Yeah, and she doesn't know it, but this Null Rod would just be Hymn to Turok at this point. And then the Sorcerer's Spyglass will end the game as a follow-up.
Yeah, the Null Rod resolving...
Wow, she kept this pile. I think she's going to lead on Spyglass, though, not Null Rod. Yeah, there it is. So she gets to take a peek, determine if she has made a huge mistake or not.
No, you don't have to force that.
Well, this protects his information, and his best plan is to Void Snare that thing anyway. Like we saw last game what happens when he has to play through a Pithing Needle effect, and it was ugly.
Well, that was game 1 when he had no removal.
Oh, right.
I definitely wouldn't force a Spyglass. I try to get virtual card advantage if I can from the Spyglass when I know my hand doesn't really have anything relevant, because they can't name mana sources. It's not like they could Spyglass the Grim Monolith.
Oh no, he's gonna pitch a card to this.
It has to be forced to Torak.
Yep, and then Chrome Mox to Turok.
This is...
Yeah, his Turok theme deck is not going to pay off against this Null Rod. So now it's like... I guess if Rachel draws any mana source, she gets to jam Lodestone Golem and then follow up with Null Rod. If she bricks, then she might just have to play the Null Rod and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for a Null Rod here. I want this game to get super weird.
Ew!
Nope, just the nuts. All right.
All right, so... Yeah. If she had drawn a regular land... Well, I wonder if she's going to...
She gets to cast both things, right?
The Golem wouldn't be all that great, because... compared to the Null Rod, because the Null Rod would shut everything down entirely.
Well, she gets to do both. Yeah, she's turning off all the artifacts and making all the spells cost one more.
Does she have I don't think, does she have enough for Null Rod and Lodestone Golem?
Yeah, she's gonna have one floating, then the Academy taps for.
Oh, it taps for 3 afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just brutal.
Yep.
I would have liked to have seen her play Lodestone Golem and pass the turn, because then we'd see Bob play Windfall and.
Instead, we're going to see nothing happen at all ever. Now he has to just raw draw the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And then still hope for the best. Academy doesn't even... Okay, he can play the Opal, though, so Academy does, in fact, cast Windfall. But Windfall is going to be for 1.
Right. This is so bad.
And here's Traxos, and it's going to be untapped by none other than Phyrexian Revoker next turn.
Most dangerous card in Vintage aside from Hollow One.
That Academy was a pretty good draw.
It was excellent.
And Bob cannot match it. Well, good news for Bob. I don't know that my deck can do much against him. I need to resolve a 2-mana spell to have any chance ever against him.
The Cindervines?
I have Cindervines and I have 4
Null
Rods in my 75. So
Mole to Ancient Grudge, that could be relevant too.
Yep, it could happen.
Board in those Cindervines.
This fun of Traxos has just dispatched both of Rachel's opponents so far tonight.
Yeah,
it could have been anything this game. Let's be fair, but Traxos was in play. So
Rachel is 4-1 now.
Yeah, into the playoffs.
So she's into the playoffs. Congratulations, Agnes, also known as Beatog.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive performance. Nice.
Yeah.
You are the only one left to play her tonight, right? So.
Yeah, I have to play against you, and I'm playing against Rachel. Isn't there one other match? Is that
no? We each play 3. So you've already dispatched Bob.
This is round 3, right?
Yes, this was the 3rd match of the night. You and I each have 2 left.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, so
yeah.
Sorry, we had a little interference in the ear. I feel like Paula Abdul on those Good Morning America specials. All right, yeah, so our matchup will be very interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at your list, and you have a bunch of cards that are good against half my plan.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Rest in Peace doesn't stop a 20/20, but it certainly stops Life from the Loam.
Right.
And Energy Field without Rest in Peace stops a 20/20, but not a Life from the Loam. And yeah, it's going to be super crazy.
It's going to be very crazy, and it could be just a really mundane game. Like, you could just wasteland me, and then I'm completely dysfunctional.
Yeah, you only have 8. Yeah, you only have 8 sources of colored mana in your deck, other than 8 colored lands. So a Null Rod plus Wasteland Loop could just squeeze you right out.
Yeah, a Wasteland Loop would be terrible. Yeah. So I guess I want to draw a lot of acceleration and keep your Null Rod off the table, and then RIP Energy Flux you, and then save 1 Force of Will for the main deck Cindervines.
Yep.
And then hope that you deck yourself on top of that.
So in all of my testing and brewing up to like maybe 18 hours ago, I was main decking 3 Cindervines and 0 Ancient Grudge. But Frank, the guy who shipped me the original list that I built off of, he encouraged me that the Bazaar to just mill Ancient Grudges was worth the utility.
Definitely.
And turns out he was wrong.
He was wrong?
Well, for this meta. I would much rather have I would much rather have Destructive Revelry in my deck than Ancient Grudge against the Enchantress strategy.
You never know. I mean, it could be that destroying my Mox Pearl is what you need to win the game, and maybe you're in a spot where you only have 1 green available, and so you Bazaar away the Ancient Grudge.
No, it's going to be fine. The Grudges are good, but I was so excited to main deck 3 Cindervines, and cooler heads prevailed.
It's an interesting card. There's a Jundless floating around, a vintage Jundless by Matthew Murray that 5-0'd, and I believe it had Cindervines in it.
Yeah, that card is pretty good. I didn't really read it. Like going through the spoiler, I just grazed over it, and I thought it was like a Burning Tree Shaman, not a Idol Under the Great Rebel.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it counted activated abilities and just dismissed it, and that was
Yeah.
just like failure to read the card. And then my burn opponent in a modern tournament recently, I was on Is It Phoenix, and they resolved to Cindervines, and I was like, oh, I don't really have activated abilities, whatever. And then I just died because that's not what that card does.
All right, we're going to take a short break. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we have the second half of the show yet